Question. Do you consider yourself a bold person? Good, good. But do you consider yourself super bold? My guest today says there's a systematic way to increase your boldness and confidence. Let's have ourselves a pocket-sized pep talk. Meet this man and hear how he does it.
A pocket-sized pep talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jallis.
Fred Joyal is an entrepreneur, speaker, business advisor, and author. He's written 2 best-selling books, and as the CEO of one of the top advertising firms in LA, has written and appeared in over 200 television and radio commercials. Co-founded the most successful dentist referral service in the country. That's 1-800-DENTIST. And his latest book, Superbold, From Underconfident to Charismatic in 90 Days, is an Amazon and Wall Street Journal bestseller. And I had to have him. You sound bold to me, sir. And I had to shorten that bio. So welcome to the show, Fred.
Thanks, Rob. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're gonna hear just how super bold this guy is. All right. Let's get to work. I hear that you began as an extremely shy person, a timid person, too timid to even make a phone call. And yet you've done stand-up comedy, improv comedy, spoken to large audiences, celebrities, etc. Give me your best 90 seconds. How does somebody go from, and we don't have to go into the process yet, but I'm curious about your journey. How do you go from that person who's nervous about a phone call to, hobnobbing with celebrities and making those big presentations?
I basically got really angry with missed opportunities. They kept stacking up. And I kept stacking the regrets to go with them. And I just said, I have to figure out a way out of this. Obviously, I wasn't born bold like some people. I was the opposite, or programmed the opposite way. And so I just started doing stuff that made me uncomfortable until it made me comfortable. And I realized that I was creating a feedback loop of rewards for bold action. So I just kept challenging myself and amplifying it. And then I decided I could teach this to people. Many years later, I realized my method for doing it could be compressed, because it took me decades, into a way that anybody could do it and build their boldness and confidence to radically higher levels than they ever imagined.
Yeah, and I'm interested. I'm hanging on that one word because we're similar in this way. I'm a very much rewards person. And not big rewards, but I'm just curious. Give me an example of some of the rewards you set out for yourself.
I wanted to be able to walk up to anyone and have a normal conversation, whether it's an attractive woman or a successful business person I wanted to meet, or just somebody in line at Starbucks, or somebody at a party. I needed that comfort, and I wanted to be really good on stage. And that took a lot of training, and a lot more. Some of it took really long. Didn't happen quickly, but that desire to do those things is what drove me. And then as the rewards kept coming, and they were little victories. And here's the really important thing is sometimes the reward is just in trying, is not being disappointed in yourself because you didn't try. It was, you would have called it a fail. Let's say I'm trying to meet this woman, and I go out and I walk across the room, talk to her, find out she has a fiance or whatever. That's not a fail because I walked up and talked to her.
Right.
And it would be the same thing if I saw a famous actor and I said, hey, I really admire your work, and she gives me the cold shoulder, or he gives me the cold shoulder. I don't know how harassed he's been by fans. That's not a fail. I get to say, I really admire your work. Now, I've had that happen, like with Tom Hanks, and it turned into a 10-minute conversation. So amazing things can happen, but trying is its own reward.
Yeah. Have you ever seen, I talk about this from time to time. Have you ever seen the movie Defending Your Life?
Yeah.
And if you remember in that movie, what's it all
Albert
about?
Brooks, right?
Yeah, Albert Brooks, Meryl Streep, and he is, kind of he's died, but he has to defend his life and figure out, is he going to move through the universe or come back? But I love the criteria in that movie, and it's similar to yours. It really wasn't about monetary success and these other things that we all think about. It was just overcoming your fears. And they were queuing up, both the prosecutor and the defender, queuing up moments where fear didn't hold the person back, and then moments where fear did hold the person back. And I still kind of hold on to that movie a little bit as, yeah, some of the greatest moments of many of our lives, and certainly mine, are not necessarily the success, but where I walked into the Shark Tank, and that was the victory in itself. Do you consider yourself an introvert?
Yes. I consider myself a bold introvert because I am really good at being alone. I get a lot of stuff done when I'm alone, but I am not lonely. I choose the time to be alone. There are people who are alone and lonely because they are afraid to go out. They create all of these things. And unfortunately, we live in a world where you can hide. You can hide behind a screen. You can hide in a video game. You can hide and have everything delivered and never expand your social circle beyond 2 people. I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to meet people anywhere and go to a foreign country and meet people. Even if I'm not speaking the language, I can still find a way to interact with them, and they'll try as hard as I do. Often it's really fun. Whereas other people go like, I can't go to Italy. I don't speak Italian. It's like, so you're never going to see Italy. That's ridiculous. There's a McDonald's there. You'll be able to get food. Don't relax. But it became this process of just creating challenges after a while and then really finding a systematic way of teaching it. That's what Superbold is about, is a very systematic way with exercises that you do that start really simply. They're actually based on the principles of learning how to do improv comedy, which actually starts non-verbally and builds gradually up until you can create a scene on stage with 3 people with no prepared material. It's this controlling the intensity of the experience as you venture into your discomfort zone and just embrace it. You may have a voice in your head that says, oh, people are going to laugh, or you're going to be embarrassed, or you're going to fail. And you go, I hear you, but I'm not listening. I'm going in.
Right. To me, the only way to fail is to quit on the stool. You put the gloves on and you fight. That's not a failure. You quit on the stool. That's the one that haunts us a little bit. I love something else you said, Fred. I put it in different words, but sometimes when I'm trying to help people who don't feel as confident, I cling to 2 words and I talk about a track record. What typically happens in these situations, because we have these fears of, what typically happens? Well, actually, when I talk to the person at Starbucks, they seem pretty nice, okay. And it's the same with speaking and things like that. I think when people really focus on their track record, it tends to get rid of all the other noise, all the other extremes. That I've heard that I love this phrase, worry is the misuse of your imagination. And people frequently begin to misuse that imagination. And I'm also glad you said one other thing, and then I want to get to the process. I'm glad that you mentioned that you're an introvert, because people think when they see somebody on a stage, they see somebody out there being bold, being super bold, like you, like me, that person must be the life of every party. Look, there are times where, I don't know about you, I can be the life of the party, but I've got to be in the mood to be the life of the party. Quite frankly, if I'm around all my friends, it's easy to be an extrovert. But when I walk into a room of people I don't know, sometimes I have to take a few steps I don't want to, just because I don't want to let people down, because I'm this labeled extrovert. I think we all have a little bit of each in us. And so I'm glad you're reaching out. I'm glad that I've got an author who's doing extremely bold things, who's looking me right in the eye and saying, in my heart, I'm an introvert. It's powerful.
Yeah, you don't become a different person by becoming super bold. What you do is you bring your full self to the world, to the people that matter to you, and you don't miss key opportunities in your life because you hesitated or you talked yourself out of it, and it disappears. It's a one-time thing and it's gone. Whether it's asking for that promotion or talking to that person that you saw and you said, I really want to meet them. And you talk yourself out of it and then they're gone. Or you have to give a eulogy for a parent or a good friend. And you say, I hate public speaking. It's like, no, it's not public speaking. It's your one chance to get up and tell everybody how you felt about this person. And that's going to gnaw at you the rest of your life if you don't do that. That's what it's about. Yeah. When it matters, you step up, you speak up, you take action.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Can anybody learn to do this? Or is it just for the select few? I think I know where you're going, but I need to hear you say it.
It can be learned by anybody. All it takes is deciding, looking at your life and say, there were bold moments that made a huge difference in my life and I can't figure out how to replicate them. And there's all these other times where I hesitated and I missed opportunities and I have regrets and they keep haunting me. And when you look at those two things and you say, I am ready to change, that's all it takes. And then I'm going to teach you how to start and work on it every day, a little bit, till you build that boldness muscle and you'll feel it happen. And in 90 days, you will feel radically different. Now, you are going to work on your boldness the rest of your life. I still am too. I'm still catching myself going like, I could have added one more thing there. I was in that conversation and I let it go a little early when I could have gone one more step. I could have asked Tom Hanks if I could be an extra in his next show or whatever. And then just laugh it off and say, I know everybody asked you this, but are you looking for any extras? He's going to say, I don't handle that. But he might say, hey, for somebody as bold as you, I want you in my background. Right? No law, no harm, no foul if you bring it up. Now, there's times when I always reflect on my bold moves and say, what was even bolder? How could I have dialed it up one more notch?
Wow. Is there, when I teach people to sell, and I teach a repeatable, predictable process, and I'm going to tell you in the on deck circle is some process behaviors from you. But at bat right now is sometimes the battle between style and technique. In other words, okay, so I'm looking at you right now. For those of you who can't see Fred, he's rocking some red rubber glasses of some sort. He was bending them for me before we started. Got that big head of red hair that I'm incredibly jealous about. So you have a style. Sometimes that style and techniques begin to kind of contradict each other a little bit. So people will watch something I'm doing and they'll say, oh, well, I'm going to go get some red glasses and I'm going to dye my hair red. No, that would be Fred's style. Right. Technique is what we're doing. We own our own style. So can you talk to that a little bit of when it comes to being super bold, maybe the separation between style and technique here?
Yeah, I think we all have things that we're afraid of doing. Many times when you take a hard look at them, it's because we really want to do them, but we are afraid of failing at them. Yeah. So it's not like bungee jumping or something like that. It's a different sort of thing. It's like, I would love to join the church choir, but I don't think I'm good enough. It's like, why don't you let somebody else decide that instead of you being the one to stop you? And so, but that's your dream, and your dreams could be small by other people's measurements. Some people I want to solve the plastic problem in the ocean. Other people say, I want to be the best dad ever. Okay. That requires boldness because you have to do certain things. You have to be bold enough to say at work, I'm not working an 80-hour week. I don't care. I'm going to make less money because I've got 18 years with this kid and I want to be with him. I want to see her grow up. I want to walk her down the aisle. I do not want to miss things with her. And I'm bold enough to say, I don't need the money. I don't need that success. So your boldness is about your life, your dreams, your secret goals, but also from introspection. How do you want to have your eulogy read? Do you want to say he made buckets of money, or do you want to say he was the best friend I ever had? Is that what you want to hear people say? Because that's what I want. But that doesn't have to be your dream. It could be you had the biggest yacht in New York Harbor. If that's what you want, right. You got to do a bunch of stuff to get. You got to do a bunch of bold stuff to get there. But that's your life, and so it's not about becoming somebody else. It's becoming really deeply in touch with what really matters to you. And are you chasing it every day? Or are you thinking you're going to get to it? Because a year goes by, and then a decade goes by, and then a tombstone shows up, So that's the way I look at it. Is like, I'm in the game of life, and I don't know how long the coach is going to let me play. So right. Every day I'm playing full out.
Yeah. Well, I can tell. And, it's interesting because I coached a lot of teams, particularly in basketball. And, I saw certain people that really wanted to be great. They wanted it more than anyone else, but they didn't really do anything to be great. They just wanted it so bad. So let's shift there now. I'm a former Xerox guy. I don't know if you know that, but we had a process for everything, yes. And so I'm curious if we can process this a little bit. The book is super bold, and I'm assuming we can get it at Amazon and all online places.
And it's in Kindle and Audible with me reading it, and it's all in right. hardcover.
Good. See if you can get it into FedEx, by the way. It's a nice get. That's a kind of FedEx book to me. And it sure is nice being on a cart with 15 other books instead of a million Barnes and Noble or whatever. But that book to me looks like a classic FedEx book. Let's go at this. I told you on deck and now at bat is the process itself. We're as close as we can get. Give me kind of I'm sure we could spend an hour on this, but give me the Cliff Notes a little bit of the systematic approach that you've written about to really get up that bold factor.
Yeah. And I'll compress it into a comprehensible arc, but it's called the P.R.I.D.E method, and it's an acronym, but the word pride should mean something. It's like, why wouldn't you want to live a life that you're proud of? That's not egotistical. That's you're becoming the architect of your life so that it is something you're proud of. So the key words are preparation, relaxing, insight, dosage, and everyday action. Preparation is just, let's say you want to say something to somebody in line at the Starbucks in front of you. Think of what you're going to say. I'm going to compliment his suit. It just looks great on him. I actually pick out the thing that I think is weirdest, that I have a judgment about, like their purple hair or something like that. And I'll say, and instead of running the judgment, I'll say, that hair looks amazing on you. Good for you. That's a bold move. And I actually changed my opinion of them because I've got a stupid judgment and I've erased it. But the other thing about preparation is it's the foundation for spontaneity. You have something you're going to say, and in the moment you can change it because you got a gun in the barrel and you can just shift it. So that preparation is for any situation.
Right.
And I can go into a lot more detail on that. But the next step is learning to physically relax yourself, which you can do, but not when somebody says, why don't you just relax? It's like, oh, I look nervous. That makes me twice as nervous. So
my wife, by the way, gets on me all the time because I have the trilogy of all three: relax, take it easy, simmer down. And I tend to work, which, as you can imagine, really relaxes her a lot.
It's very effective. Yes. Just my mom used to do it to me. Why don't you relax? Because I don't know how. Right. But there is a way to know. The first thing you do is you check your physiology. Where are you tensing up? Because we're reacting. We react to psychological danger in exactly the same way as physical danger. All of these things in the autonomic nervous system kick in. The air conditioning comes on and we start sweating and all of that stuff. Breathe and relax your body. Take 3 deep breaths. And it's amazing the power of your breath. So, and I talk more in detail. There's some other techniques, but they're so simple and in minutes. And you reverse the process. You say, wow, I'm in control of my anxiety now. And once you can dial it down, it dials itself down. Because it's now you say, okay, now I can be energized instead of anxious. Giant transition. The next key, the next letter in the P.R.I.D.E method is the I, insights. And it is key insights. What bold people know is 90% of the time, nothing bad happens unless you decide to label it that way. And this is really, when you make this transition is when you realize that people are not thinking about you anywhere near as much as you think they are. They're thinking about themselves. They may have, and are they right just because they have a judgment? If the guy that you accidentally cut off on the highway yells, "You jerk," are you a jerk? Does that transform you? So why would you take on the opinions of a stranger? I love the expression, what people think about me is none of my business. People's opinions of me is none of my business.
Oh, Fred,
when you
like
release that, it's so powerful.
Yeah.
The next step is D, which is dosage, which is as you're building your boldness muscle, you're controlling the intensity. You're working your way up from something really easy and simple to a little more daring, till a little more challenging. And that's what the exercises are about. It's like dialing you up, and you do them at your own pace, but you're always edging into your discomfort zone and then retreating back and saying, wow, what happened? Wow, that wasn't so bad. And then the next day or the next week, you're moving out a little farther till you're doing some pretty wild stuff and realizing nothing bad happens. And then the final thing is everyday action. Doing stuff every day is the most powerful way to achieve your dreams. Whatever you're aiming for, if you work at it every day, what you work at, what you do every day aggregates. What you put off deteriorates. And that's what I talked about a little bit before, is a month, a year, a decade goes by and you're like, I'll get to it. And what happens is you're older with less energy and more mileage on you, and more failures that you've sort of embraced. So when you work at something every day, you start to tell your brain, this is who I am. I'm a person that is learning to play piano. I'm a person that exercises. I'm a person that works on my boldness and confidence every day. And you can do it for 3 minutes. You can do one bold act a day and it aggregates. Now you may want to do 3, 4, or 5, and eventually it becomes your default mode because your brain goes, I guess this is who we are. And it literally creates new neural pathways. This is what they found out about the brain is, and you know this as well, is when you create new behaviors, you create new neural pathways at whatever age it is. However you challenge your brain, it will create new neural pathways. And the pathways that you don't reinforce, the shy, underconfident ones, will literally atrophy. So it's a powerful thing to do. So those are the steps of the P.R.I.D.E method.
Wow. I got to tell you, I don't let anybody send me an author's book, because if I really like it, I want to buy it and I want to write a review and I want it verified. So I blocked the pitch person. But I'm going to get that book, and I'm going to tell you a few reasons why. And play back some of my podcasts. You won't see me fawn over an author quite like this. One, I really like a process. I don't, you start talking about being super bold. You run the risk of being super inspirational, super motivational, super entertaining, and quite frankly, speaker to speaker. If Fred and I couldn't do that, we wouldn't be in business. So, but that's the easy part. The hard part is providing something that is repeatable and predictable that people can stylize and utilize. And I even like the fact that in this book that we're hearing about today, it's interactive. Now, once we have a process, we know we've got some interaction. Walk me through that. Put me to the paces. How is the book interactive? You've got me already. I'm getting a copy of this book, but I work with a lot of people in career transition. They've been beaten up a little bit. They've been told no a few too many times, and they've lost sight of that former track record. So this is exactly what they need. But how can they interact with this material when they're reading it?
So they're going to get to the section of the exercises, and there are 5 level of exercises. They start, as I said, non-verbally. You're just going to smile at everybody you meet that day, aiming for the person who doesn't smile back. Right. And you're going to not take it on. You're not going to say, oh, it must be something wrong with me. You're going to say, it's probably the worst day of their life, or maybe they got bad teeth. You're going to come up with, instead of Dr. No responses in your head, you're going to start listening to Dr. Yes, and you're going to start to create those responses. And then you're going to journal that. What happened? What did I experience? Wow. I smiled at 20 people, 19 smiled back, and a grumpy old man didn't smile back. That felt pretty good. I was shocked. I thought half the people wouldn't smile at me. So you're journaling, and you're aiming for failure in a lot of the exercises, but then eventually you're going to have some moves that you make in your life, and you're going to go, why did that go wrong? You're going to ask yourself, oh, you know what? I wasn't prepared. I thought I could just walk right up and spontaneously say something clever. And then you mine that and say, preparation.
Hey, Fred, let me jump in on that a second, because I'm also a huge fan of journaling, and I just want to make sure people are hearing this, that at least from my perspective, when you journal, it's always the story you didn't think you were going to tell that is the amazing story. So you sit down and go, I don't really have much to say, but I'm going to talk about this interaction that may not have gone so well as you just heard. But it's amazing what happens when you really just let freewheel a little bit, because your mind will keep going. It'll go, why was that? And what can I learn from that? And by journaling, I refer to it as you're actually creating almost a methodical way to be more observant. And when you don't do that, when you just walk around and go, well, I'll remember that, or yeah, I think I learned that lesson. I don't know how we learn lessons. So kudos to you again, a big journaling fan. I have, from my trips and travels, at this point, I have about 2,500 pages of journal entries. And I have learned more from that journal, particularly after I wrote it, and then double back once a year and go, oh, there's even a bigger lesson in that story. I'm almost embarrassed to tell you, Fred, for a while I had this rule, like, I will not look at my journal. I do not want to interfere with history. That's the way I felt at that day. And I thought, well, good news is you're taking snapshots. Bad news is you're not learning anything with the pictures you're taking. But love the fact you're journaling. I hope people who are listening to this will recognize how powerful a tool that is, and anybody can do it. And don't worry about, sorry, I'm crowbarring me into this a little bit, but sure. Because I tell people, don't worry about, I don't really have much to say today. You know what? Open up the laptop, put your hands on the keyboard, and make that journal entry. I don't have much to say today. I'll also make you a little side bet that you'll write more that day when you thought you knew what you were going to say day. So just open the laptop. Don't quit on the stool again. Get in the game.
That's it. I mean, it is really powerful to examine it, because you will say, you know what? I didn't walk over and talk to that person that I really wanted to, because I was telling myself this. Right. And then you get to say to yourself, was that really true? Or was it something I told myself? If that's when you're examining your own thoughts and can stop and say, is that really true? Or where the heck did that come from? Oh, I get it. My dad was always saying this. It's like, don't be a show off. Don't draw attention to yourself. Sit down and be quiet.
Right.
And you go, oh, that's the thing I heard 50,000 times. That's the programming I got to let go. But
Yeah.
until you examine, like, where did this come from? Why am I have a negative voice in my head that's stopping me? Oh, because it's been in there.
Yeah. And you can't get there by just walking by. It's like a dream. How many times do we dream at night and wake up at 3 a.m. and go, wow, that was powerful. Well, I'll remember that in the morning. And off we go. And all we remember is I had a really great dream with a wonderful lesson that I will never remember. That's what you remember in the morning. So journaling to me is a little bit the same thing. Don't con yourself as life is happening, as these moments are happening, to go, I got it. I'll remember it. You'll never find that father story that you just went over by just walking past the event and going, well, that was interesting. I'll do better next time.
So I'll think about it later.
Yeah. That's amazing. Let me ask you this: is there anything about being super bold that you want to debunk? Like for sales, for me, people, I get that question and I'll tell them, well, one thing is I really do believe anybody can sell. Two, I believe that everyone says they can create trust. It's a lot more difficult than people give it. So I know some of the debunk areas in the sales world. Tell me one or two in the super bold world.
That it's going to make you a show off. It's going to make you an attention whore. It's actually there when you become super bold, there's a whole element of humility that comes along with it, because you also realize how much more you can achieve. So it actually dials back your ego. Ego is primarily driven by insecurity. And so as you become actually bolder and confident, you don't have to. It's like when somebody learns martial arts, they very seldom get into fights. One, because they radiate, I will kick your ass, right? And they don't need to prove that they're strong. They know that they're incredibly capable. And when you have that, you radiate it, but it's not, you don't use it as a dominating, manipulating force. You use it to achieve your dreams and ideally make a bigger contribution to other people's lives, whether it's 2 minutes of making that person feel better about themselves or feel a little more inspired, or give them that feedback that they really need, but you've been hesitating to say it. And you say, I have to find a way to tell them this because they need to know. That takes boldness, because it's a lot easier to be the nice person.
Right.
Boldness. It takes boldness to give feedback. It takes boldness to get feedback, accept feedback. I tell people all the time, I want to hear what you think when I delivered a speech. What did I do wrong? Where did I lose you? Whatever. And I may get upset when you tell me, but I need you to tell me. I will process it. Praise is wonderful, but has no information.
Right.
Failure, mistakes, full of information. And I want to mine that. And that takes boldness to take that on, because we all want to feel good about ourselves too. But I want to get better. I let that supersede feeling good about myself, deluding myself into thinking I was great when I can be greater.
Yeah. I'll self-disclose and tell you that one of my biggest challenges in life is negative feedback. And it's, I write about it. I don't write about a big challenge of mine. I write about how to give feedback, how to balance feedback. I know the process for feedback. I've given feedback to many, many people, coaching, et cetera. And yet, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I will tell you that it's always been a challenge of mine to just listen. Don't get defensive. There's always a little voice going, I did so say that. I couldn't do it because the other guy would just process it. But I will tell you that what you said is important for me, and I think a lot of people. It's challenging, and the only thing I can add to it is it's not quite as bad when somebody knows how to give feedback, and meaning just balance your feedback a little bit and maybe let me go first and then a couple of things I could have done differently, and a couple of things that I did real well, because I may not know I did them well, and I want to make sure I do them next time. But that feedback is a tricky one for a lot of people, including me.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and
Yep.
you want that, tell me the highs and lows, whatever. Like, but I very quickly, a guy came up to me after my lecture and he said, "You are a great speaker." He says, "But you would be even better if you didn't curse." And I said, "Did I curse?" Because I'm thinking of the audience that I had, and I was I didn't drop any F-bombs. I didn't even say damn, I think. And I said, "What did I say?" And he said, "You said shit." And in my mind, I'm going, that's cursing. But it was it was such an alert. It's like, to some people, they're done listening to me because I used something, a word that they were uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
And I could not just say crap.
Yeah.
Now, I may use with the right audience that I know. I have certain audiences that I can get as profane as I want. And I know they just jump forward. Like, yeah, and they're like, I excite them. But that was such a powerful lesson, as like to understand that my audience and come down on the side of clean. Jerry Seinfeld has made an entire career never telling a single line of profanity in his jokes.
Right.
So it can be done.
Yeah. Brian Regan, also great comedian. All clean. I will tell you that I'm close to 40 years as a speaker. I never curse on stage. If you catch me, let's have a cup of coffee. I'll show you. I know all the words. I have no problem, but I don't know. And the thing is, I can have 200 people out there and one or two people don't like a certain word. And it's just, I know some people would say, well, you got 199 out of 200. What are you stressing about? It's just easier to take care of that one person. And I probably would have given you that feedback too. I will walk up to a speaker sometime and go, you just don't need it. Now, like you said, you pick your spots, your audiences. For me, I don't know an audience where I could guarantee I could lay out money on a table and say, I'm willing to put that, I'll put that, my chips all in the center, that I know the audience so well that no one will be offended. I don't know. So I stay away from it, but that's just one speaker to another. And even the word, I do use the word damn, but I coached a team one time. I had a woman come up to me and because I had used it and said, it really was offensive to her. And it was, the opening the door for GD. And, and I was like, okay. And I completely took it out of coaching and never said it to a kid again. So you just don't know. All right. One, I could stay with you forever. So I want to pick my spots. One or two more questions. One is about relaxing. That's so difficult for some people. And like we said earlier, 20 minutes ago or so, it was like, I know one way not to relax, keep yelling at somebody to relax. So what are some ways that that you could provide some tips here for our listeners of how they can relax a little bit more? I do a little transcendental meditation sometimes, but let's throw out TM for a moment. Give me a better technique than that one, because that's quite a commitment.
All right. So the thing about the P.R.I.D.E method is it's a matrix. It's not a sequence as much as it's each part reinforces each other. So in order to relax, be prepared. In order to relax, have the insight that not everybody is thinking about you all the time. They're thinking about themselves. Have the insight that 99% of the time, nothing bad happens unless you decide to label it that way. Use that to inform your state and then change your physical state. So, and control the dosage and say, well, of course I'm nervous. I've never spoken to people before, and there's 500 people in this room. Start with 20, start with 10, start with 5, control that dosage so that you're not tongue tied and your memory's gone. But in terms of physically relaxing, the most amazing thing you can do, and it's just a physical thing, is to vibrate the vagus nerve in your body. The vagus nerve runs all down the center of your body, and you can vibrate it with your voice. Now, you obviously, it's got to be quiet, or you got to be in a private space, but you take a deep breath in, and then you let it out slowly, making this sound, ha, and you vibrate that nerve, and you do that 3 times in a row, you will physically feel a downshift in your nervousness. You will be more relaxed. And then of course it starts the downward spiral of your nervousness, because you said, wow, I'm in control. Maybe I'll do it one more time. Or geez, I don't even need to. Now I'm just a ball of energy ready to roll it out. Because you want to turn every bit of anxiety into energy.
Right.
You know, when we speak, it's the full Rob, right? You don't want to give them 80%. You want 101% coming out the whole time. And so you want to take every bit of what might have been nervousness, and now it's energy. It's like, and you're focused 100% on giving them everything you got.
Yeah.
And the only way you do that is if your memory's really working and you're prepared and ready to be spontaneous. I'm sure some of the best stuff you've done, you thought of on stage. Because you were right focused on what that audience needed, and you just said it the best way you've ever said it.
Oh yeah. You know, you have an adrenaline that you can't simulate in front of a mirror. I'm always surprised at how much more articulate I am on a stage than off a stage. Because everything is just firing. I really, first of all, I'm going to try that technique. You know, one of the things I whisper to people is, I can't say it's 100%, but it's about 95%, which is, what if I told you that before you get out there, that the whole room is rooting for you? And people go, how do you know that? Well, think about it. They've got 2 choices. They could say, oh, I hope this guy Fred comes out here, bores me to tears and teaches me nothing. Or
that's
they could
why
say,
I'm sitting here drinking coffee. Yeah.
Yeah. Or they could say, you know, I need this. I hope this guy got his A game going. But in a sense, they're rooting for you, because if they're not, they're rooting against themselves. So again, it's not a perfect situation. And I like the vibration of the vagus nerve, quite frankly.
No,
but
great.
That's something that I just feed the mind of, particularly of newer speakers, of it just doesn't make sense for people to actually root against you. That's just kind of stinking thinking that's hanging around, but it's not real. It's pretend.
And even as a speaker or in any situation, if you apply this, there are no mistakes. Nobody knows what you would have said. They only know what you are saying. Right. And if something goes wrong, I had a video start to play on 2 screens, and as I clicked the clicker, the power failure. There was a power failure in the hotel. Everything went off. And I could have panicked. And instead I said, wow, this clicker is more powerful than I thought. And then I just told a story. Yeah. Because I had no lights. I had no electricity. And what happened is this classic speaker discovery. I took a story that I would normally tell more at the end. And this was way more at the beginning. And when I told it, I went, this is where this story belongs. Right. It belongs in the first 10 minutes, not in the last 5. Right. And so like, thank you for the power failure. Yeah. Nothing bad. I've gone on stage, I rushed on stage because they hooked up my mic at the last second and they're calling me on stage, and I'm running up. My shirt's half untucked. There's a wire hanging around my waist and stuff like that. It takes me 5 minutes to realize it. And I looked down and I said, excuse me, my wire's dangling, and tuck it in. As long as I'm okay with it, anything can happen. Right. A friend of mine broke her heel on the nightmare for a woman, break a heel on stage. Right. She takes her shoes off and she says, I guess I got to start spending more than $30 on shoes. She slayed them, and she owned them at that point. Instead of being crushed and embarrassed and humiliated, she seized it as an opportunity to be one of them. Yep. Well, and you've hit it, Fred, that one of them piece. See, they can identify with that because their heel has broken before. They've had some of these issues. I wrote a piece one time where I talked about really the biggest sin that a speaker can make is to make the audience feel sorry for you. See, when that heel broke, if she went the other way and she said, oh, what am I going to do? My heel broke. Now that third wall is broken and everybody is so distracted with, oh my goodness, but her doing that
A, they could identify with, and B, we don't need to feel sorry for her. Let's keep going. So just like you, really could have said that, these hotels, what's wrong with them? Why aren't they paying the, and now the audience, it begins to fracture a little bit. So, yeah, I think one of the things I want people to remember from this part of the conversation is don't put the audience in a position to feel sorry for you. You'll ruin the show for them. That's actually one of the only things that will ruin it. We can pivot. I've lost power, by the way. Did it in the round. Took a stool and put it in the middle of the audience so they could hear me. And it was one of the most beautiful presentations. I wish I could do it. I do live auctions, and from that day forward, I always auction in the round.
Yeah, and I've had situations where total computer PowerPoint failure, and it's in this restaurant. The AV guy doesn't exist. All of it. And so I said, you know what we're going to do? Just ask me questions.
Yeah.
2 hours it went.
Oh.
And all I did was follow their interest for 2 hours, and they would have gone till midnight. And I said, all right,
incredible.
Wrap up here, but embrace everything as a gift. Every that's the Aikido rule, is embrace the hit as a gift. Everything that happens to you has a reward in it if you just embrace it.
Right. And they get to see sort of your speed of thought. Sometimes we watch a speaker and we think, well, I wonder how many 1,000 times that guy has said this. But when a heel breaks or the lights go out, we already know, well, I know this hasn't happened 1,000 times. Let's see what's going on now. And that's really where you show, I call it mental agility, your ability to just move and react. I got to tell you, truly, I could go on forever, but this is supposed to be a pocket-sized pep talk.
Yeah,
this is a nice lengthy pep talk. So. All right, the book one more time. Tell us, Superbold. We can get it where again? I keep forgetting.
It's on Amazon, Kindle, Audible, and hardcover. And you can go to my website, fredjoyal.com, download a PDF of the exercises. If you're reading it, a digital version of it, you're going to want a physical form of the exercises that you can print out. And the journal format is there as well for you to print out. So, but otherwise, when you get the book, somebody's given you a blank journal. Use that with the book and start doing the exercises and journaling about what happened with each exercise. That's how you're going to get there in 90 days. And you're going to be astounded at the change. And it's going to become a lifelong process of growth and transformation for yourself. Beautiful. You're going to chase your dreams.
Yeah. And if you don't believe Fred, just listen to the podcast again and ask yourself, how many tips did I just learn about being bold and super bold and just getting up there and not letting fear hold you back, as we say. Fred, I'll have all your contact information on our site. We've got a way of getting a hold of you. I just want to say personally how grateful I am that you were able to spend some time with us, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And watch for my review, but I got to wait for the book to come first because that one's going on my bookshelf. Really just a wonderful job, and thank you.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it. It was a joy to be here.
Pleasure meeting you too. Well, listen, folks, we'll do it again the best we can next time, although this one's going to be tough to beat. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.